Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you from start to finish how I made this coastal shaker in the skull. It is a shaker ball that's inserted in the middle to give it that snow globe effect. This time I added 500 milliliters of water and 500 milliliters of glycerin, vegetable glycerin. I actually poured the water into the bulb itself first and then poured it into my measuring cup, and it's 100 milliliters total. So it almost filled it all the way up to the top. And I like to mix it in the cup first because I want to make sure that everything is completely mixed before putting it in the ball. It just makes a big mess trying to seal it and shake it all up and mix it. It's just easier to adjust the mixture. So I added a blue pigment in here first, and I ended up with some like little fingers or something. I don't know what was in it, but I picked those out, like little blobs. So I probably won't be doing that next time, but I added the light blue mica powder first, and I really like that effect, but I wanted to give it a little bit more of a darker tint as well. I was hoping it would stay separate. I'm not sure if it did or not because I wanted it to be like a two-toned. Maybe next time I'll try like two separate colors to see if they mix or if they stay separate. It's probably just gonna mix. But I liked the way it turned out. It worked. And I really liked the half and half. It gave me the perfect little swirling effect. So once you get it to the consistency that you want, the color that you want, I just used a tiny funnel that I had on hand to get it into the bulb itself. And it's almost up to the top, and then I just added a little bit more glycerin and a little more water just to get it all the way at the top. I always finish off with water when I get to that very top because I don't want any glycerin making contact with this is just water here, with the top itself when I seal it, because it's more of a glycerin's obviously very oily, or I don't even know what's in it. And then I just used the top that came with the bulb, the refillable bulb, to create just a little diagram so I could see what size I needed for my cap or my top. I used UV resin. It's the hard UV resin, and I dried that. I only dried it for 1 minute because I wanted it to be somewhat soft. I was hoping I would be able to kind of mold it over the top, but I didn't really make it big enough. So you can see here in the middle, it was still a little, it wasn't fully cured, but I was going to cure it again once I got it on top, so I didn't really care. Next time I'll probably finish it off so it is completely flat, because you can see in the center there is like a little divot, and I think that ended up causing more air in there than I wanted. But once I made sure that it was going to fit, I added a little more UV resin to the around the edges and added that to the top. I pressed a little bit too hard, and I ended up with some of the water squeezing out the side, but it actually worked out for me in the end because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't a big bubble caught in it. I wanted to get as much of the air out of there as possible. Here I ended up using some of my small cups. I turned them upside down to use for the feet, and it was really giving me a hard time. As you can see, I didn't really have it balanced really well, and it fell off. But I figured it out. So I left that on I actually did it for 2.5 minutes. And then here you can see how the needle is bent there because I tried to go through the resin. That wasn't happening. Luckily there was that air pocket on the side, or that void on the side. So I used that to push in more water. And I really only had just a tiny bit. So I made sure this was all cleaned off, and then went in with some more UV resin to finish sealing that off. And then I put it back under the light for another 2.5 minutes. Made sure it was good, and then went in again for another 2.5 minutes. So a total of 5 minutes, just to make sure that UV resin was perfectly sealed. This is the first time I used mold release. I figured because it's such a tight mold release would be a good idea. And the mold release that I have is from Cast and Craft. It's really good mold release, but I would not recommend using it for something like this with the shaker ball, because you'll see in the very end, I ended up getting, I can't tell if it's a film that collected on the bottom or if it's air bubbles, but look at how amazing this swirl is in the bulb. So while I was waiting for the UV resin to set up, I went ahead and mixed my resin, let it set for a minute. I did pour about a quarter of the way full on the bottom of the skull, tapped it out, trying to get all these bubbles. This is where I noticed, like I had said before, that mold release tended to, there was just a lot more micro bubbles than I'm used to. But the bulb fits in there just perfectly. Once I got it to where I wanted it to go, I added some moss to give it a 3D effect. I wanted it to show up on the sides, and just strategically place them around the edges, and you'll see they kind of fell to the side a little bit, but ultimately I was happy with where they were at. This is about 8 hours later. It's nice and hard, but I'm worried about all of these bubbles that got caught over here under, I don't know if we can, yeah, you can see that are collecting on the bulb. So originally I wanted to do like a night scene with the moss that kind of looks like trees, but that's not going to happen. So we're just going to go with an ocean theme here because there's bubbles, and I don't know how well they're going to show up or how bad they're going to show up on there, but we're going to switch gears here. So I'm just going to do this final layer. I'm going to do some clear. Oops. And then drop my shells down just so I can get rid of some of these bubbles, because the shells are obviously going to create a lot of bubbles. So this is going to be my base layer, or what's going to show up. It's kind of like what people do with the pyramids, where they layer each event. So this will be the bottom, obviously. So we're going to get all of our shells in here. Give these a chance to work out the bubbles. I don't even care if the bubbles float to the top, because this is going to be the bottom of the piece. That'll be easy fix. Actually, that's pretty good. This might be actually kind of cool. I was kind of worried last night because it's just not what I had in mind. But sometimes you just have to switch gears. So we're going to let that set for a second while we mix this. I've got some Midnight mica powder. I'm going to go a little darker because I want to cover up this nub. And then I have royal blue pigment. We're just going to put a squeeze in there. And I just love the way this color is so deep and rich. Look at that. I need to do something like with a galaxy pour with this because it's just amazing. Alrighty. Show through. So let's see what happens. It's not hard because it's stuck to the mold. It's just such a tight fit, which is awesome that it's hard to get it started. All right, here we go. How did we do? Oh my gosh. The sides came out cool. Actually, that turned out really cool. Get some sun over here. That is so... Oh, I like it. Look at the shells right there on his teeth line. It looks like, because I sprayed that mold release on the bottom, it collected, so I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, it's cool because it's an ocean piece and it'll be fine, but that's not ideal. But look at this. Maybe on that side you can see it with the little side view is perfect. Minus the bubbles. Don't judge me for the bubbles. Okay, so note to self, no mold release, because all those bubbles got stuck underneath there. Still looks cool though. You have to really look hard. Look at that swirl. This is half and half, half glycerin and half water. The other ones that I did were 3 to 1, 3 part glycerin to 1 part water. I really like the half and half better. I'm getting a better effect with this. Wow. Wow. I am absolutely in love with the way he turned out, minus the small imperfections, which just happens, and I've learned from them. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If I've missed anything, I tried to cover all my bases, but if I've missed something, just let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer or add the adjustments as needed. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I appreciate you. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.